Healer.
Healer.
Time is a great healer.
Healing.
Healing.
The medical establishment is taking healing increasingly seriously.
The healing process.
Health.
Health.
I'm worried about my husband's health.
The government has promised to spend more on health and education.
Health insurance. Nurses and other health workers.
Even if you haven't got much money, at least you've got your health.
When we last met, he was glowing with health.
The monthly trade figures are seen as an indicator of the health of the economy. The monthly trade figures are seen as an indicator of the health of the economy.
Health and safety.
Health and safety.
Health and safety regulations.
Healthcare.
Healthcare.
The government has promised better health care for all. An aging population requires greater expenditure on health care. An aging population requires greater expenditure on health care. Healthcare professionals.
Health center.
Health center.
Health club. Health club.
Health farm.
Health farm.
Health food. Health food.
Healthful.
Healthful.
Healthful mountain air.
Health professional.
Health professional.
Health service.
Health service.
Reforms to the health service.
Health spa.
Health spa.
Health tourism. Health tourism.
Health visitor.
Health visitor.
Healthy.
Healthy.
A healthy baby boy. I've always been perfectly healthy until now. I've always been perfectly healthy until now.
A healthy lifestyle.
A healthy diet.
The importance of healthy eating.
Her face had a healthy glow.
All of our kids have healthy appetites.
I don't think it's healthy for her to spend so much time alone.
A healthy disrespect for silly regulations.
A healthy economy with a well-trained workforce.
A healthy profit.
A healthy bank balance.
Heap.
Heap.
A rubbish heap.
There was a heap of stones where the building used to be.
The envelopes for posting lay in a heap on her desk. The envelopes for posting lay in a heap on her desk.
We piled the branches into heaps for burning. We piled the branches into heaps for burning.
The children have heaps of energy.
They finally collapsed in a heap on the grass. They finally collapsed in a heap on the grass.
The very poor are at the bottom of the heap.
Jean heaped logs on the fire. She gave him a glass of whiskey and heaped his plate with food. He heaped all the blame on his secretary.
Heaped.
Heaped.
Add 3 heaped teaspoons of sugar.
Here.
Here.
She heard a sudden loud crash.
Did anyone see or hear anything last night?
I could hear the sound of traffic.
Jenny could hear them arguing outside.
She heard Tom go upstairs.
I couldn't hear what they were saying most of the time. I couldn't hear what they were saying most of the time.
She didn't want to be heard to criticize him. Old Zeke doesn't hear too well anymore. Old Zeke doesn't hear too well anymore.
Maggie did not wait to hear an answer.
Did you hear that program on Wales the other night? I want to hear what the doctor has to say. I want to hear what the doctor has to say.
I hear what you say, but I don't think we should rush this decision.
I heard a rumour that he was getting married soon.
I'm so sorry to hear he died.
She'll be pleased to hear that she can leave hospital tomorrow.
Teresa heard about the decision later.
I've heard of a job which would be just right for you.
This was the first I'd heard of any trouble in the area.
He was last heard of in Washington.
We don't hear anything of him these days. We don't hear anything of him these days.
There's a nasty infection going round, so I hear.
Did you hear what happened to Julia?
I've heard it said that they met in Italy. I've heard it said that they met in Italy.
The Supreme Court heard the case on Tuesday.
Do you know Jill Marshall? No, I've never heard of her.
I'll sue him. He hasn't heard the last of me yet. I'll sue him. He hasn't heard the last of me yet. You could have heard a pin drop in there.
I said we should go back, but Dennis wouldn't hear of it. If my mum finds out, I'll never hear the end of it.
There's no one there. I must be hearing things. There's no one there. I must be hearing things. There's no one there. I must be hearing things.
I want you to leave right now. Do you hear?
Just shut up, Tom. I can't hear myself think.
Do you ever hear from Jack?
Police want to hear from anyone who has any information.
I look forward to hearing from you.
A chance to hear from some of the victims of violent crime.
Just hear me out, will you?
Hearer.
Hearer.
Hearing.
Hearing.
She has remarkable hearing for a lady of her age.
A child with a hearing disability.
A court hearing. A disciplinary hearing.
Let's give both sides a fair hearing.
There are some words we don't use in the children's hearing.
Hearing aid.
Hearing aid.
Hearing impaired.
Hearing impaired.
Hearken.
Hearken.
Hearsay.
Hearsay.
I wouldn't take any notice of it. It's just hearsay.
Hearse.
Hearse. Heart. Heart.
Regular exercise is good for the heart.
Can you hear my heart beating?
Her cheeks were hot and her heart was pounding.
My heart raced. Were we going to land safely?
Daniel had no history of heart problems.
She suffers from a rare heart condition. His breathing and heart rate were now normal.
His heart was full of anger and grief. The plight of the refugees had tugged at the nation's heart. The plight of the refugees had tugged at the nation's heart.
The doctor had an extremely kind heart.
She could hardly speak for the ache in her heart.
It would break Kate's heart to leave the lovely old house. It would break Kate's heart to leave the lovely old house.
He left the country with a heavy heart.
Edith loved her boy with all her heart and soul.
I was still pretty innocent then when it came to affairs of the heart. I was still pretty innocent then when it came to affairs of the heart.
A woman with a heart of gold.
Sometimes I think he's got a heart of stone.
I'm glad I followed my heart, rather than my head for once.
My father told me never to let my heart rule my head.
He thinks of himself as a warm-hearted and caring human being.
He put his hand on his heart.
Leonard spoke from the heart.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
She sang the song straight from the heart.
In her heart, she knew she would never go.
Deep in his heart, he wanted Laura back.
Difficult issues at the heart of science policy. Difficult issues at the heart of science policy.
We must get to the heart of the problem.
This inspiring service gave us new heart.
We mustn't lose heart when people complain.
We've got to take a bit of heart from the fact that we won.
He may be a working-class boy at heart, but his lifestyle has been transformed. Let's face it, we're all romantics at heart.
A house in the heart of London.
An old house at the heart of an ancient forest.
The President liked to go to Williamsburg, a place close to his heart. The President liked to go to Williamsburg, a place close to his heart.
Money is dear to Kathleen's heart.
The President must try to win the hearts and minds of the voters.
After a few days of phoning Stephanie, he knew her number by heart.
Actors have to learn their lines by heart.
Her heart sank when she saw the number of books she had to read.
He hates Los Angeles with all his heart.
We sang the hymn with all our hearts.
Anne took his criticisms very much to heart.
We took Stephen's warnings to heart.
My heart goes out to the families of the victims. The Ace of Hearts.
Have you got any hearts?
She had lazed around the pool to her heart's content. She had lazed around the pool to her heart's content.
The dog can run to its heart's content out there.
His heart missed a beat as he saw the body of a small child at the water's edge.
His father bought him the bike he had set his heart on. His father bought him the bike he had set his heart on. She had set her heart on becoming a hairdresser.
Jeff really is a man after my own heart. Jeff really is a man after my own heart. He found me crying my heart out and was so kind.
To have a baby was her heart's desire.
I didn't have the heart to tell her that her beautiful vase was broken.
She's getting bored with the job and her heart's not in it. She's getting bored with the job and her heart's not in it. She's getting bored with the job and her heart's not in it.
All these people were helping us out of the goodness of their hearts.
The fans have taken Hudson to their hearts. The fans have taken Hudson to their hearts.
Artichoke hearts.
I don't think his idea will work, though his heart's in the right place.
I couldn't live without you, he said, and Jane's heart leapt.
The team are in good heart and ready for the season's matches. The team are in good heart and ready for the season's matches.
We heart this cute little dress.
Heartache.
Heartache.
Heart attack.
Heart attack.
You almost gave me a heart attack there.
Heartbeat.
Heartbeat.
Things can change in a heartbeat.
Heartbreak.
Heartbreak.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbroken.
Heartbroken.
Heartburn.
Heartburn.
Heart disease.
Heart disease.
Hearten.
Hearten.
I was heartened to see her looking so well.
Heart failure.
Heart failure.
Heartfelt.
Heartfelt.
A heartfelt apology. Hearth.
Hearth.
Heartily.
Heartily.
Great to see you, she said heartily.
Hugh laughed heartily at the joke.
This is a book I heartily recommend to all hill walkers.
Madge had become heartily sick of the city.
Heartland.
Heartland.
The democratic heartlands of the Deep South.
Heartless.
Heartless.
How can you be so heartless?
Heart-lung machine.
Heart-lung machine.
The heart of England.
The heart of England.
Heartrending.
Heartrending.
Heartrending stories of children being taken from their parents.
Heart-searching.
Heart-searching.
Heart-stopping.
Heart-stopping.
Heartstrings.
Heartstrings.
Heart-throb.
Heart-throb.
Heart to heart.
Heart to heart.
Why don't you have a heart-to-heart with him and sort out your problems?
A heart-to-heart talk. Heartwarming.
Heartwarming.
A heartwarming sight. Hearty.
Hearty.
A hearty laugh.
Heat.
Heat.
Ice needs heat to melt.
Insulating the attic is a good way to reduce heat loss. Insulating the attic is a good way to reduce heat loss.
The heat was making them tired.
Angela liked to rest during the heat of the day. Firefighters were beaten back by the intense heat.
Cook the chicken portions over a high heat. When the milk comes to the boil, turn off the heat.
Now reduce the heat and cover the pan.
Reconciliation services can take the heat out of the dispute.
Quick decisions had to be made in the heat of the negotiations.
In the heat of the moment, Nick threatened to resign.
The heat is on as schools struggle to finish their entries by the deadline.
The team turned up the heat in the last few minutes to score 2 more goals.
There was a lot of heat, and it affected our relationship.
Can you turn up the heat?
Bill finished second in his heat.
Heat the milk until it boils.
The stove takes a while to heat up.
I heated up the remains of last night's supper.
Heated. Heated.
Heater.
Heater.
Did you turn the heater off?
Heat exhaustion.
Heat exhaustion.
Heath.
Heath.
Heathen. Heathen.
Heather.
Heather.
Heath Robinson.
Heath Robinson.
Heating. Heating.
Heat-proof.
Heat-proof.
Heat pump.
Heat pump.
Heat rash.
Heat rash.
Heat-resistant.
Heat-resistant.
Heat-seeking.
Heat-seeking.
Heat stroke.
Heat stroke.
Heat wave.
Heat wave.
Heave.
Heave.
Alan heaved his suitcase onto his bed. Mary heaved herself out of bed.
We had to heave on the rope holding the anchor to get it on board.
John heaved the metal bar over the fence. Rebecca heaved a sigh of relief.
Michael's shoulders heaved with silent laughter. The sea heaved up and down beneath the boat.
A few moments later, a large ship hove into view.
He gave the door a good heave.
Heave-ho! Heave-ho!
Heaven.
Heaven.
He believed that he and his wife would one day be together again in heaven.
Sitting by the pool with a good book is my idea of heaven.
Put a baseball in his hand and he's in heaven.
Living on the farm for Jim was heaven on earth.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Mark. Do you have to make everything into a joke? For heaven's sake, let's all get to sleep.
He won't tell me what he thinks. Heaven knows why.
Sue can't take a holiday yet, though heaven knows she needs a rest.
The 2 boys are going to the dentist on Thursday. Heaven help the dentist.
Heaven help him if he ever comes back here again.
What would you do financially if, heaven forbid, your husband died?
Where in heaven's name have you been?
He looked up towards the heavens.
Just then the heavens opened.
I would move heaven and earth to help her.
Heavenly.
Heavenly.
That smells heavenly. We found a tiny hotel in a heavenly spot with a beautiful bay.
God's heavenly kingdom.
Heavenly bodies.
Heavens.
Heavens.
Good heavens, what a mess!
Heaven sent.
Heaven sent.
A heaven-sent opportunity.
Heavenward.
Heavenward.
Heavily.
Heavily.
I became heavily involved in politics.
The report was heavily criticized in the press.
A heavily populated area.
Thousands of heavily armed troops.
His wife was heavily pregnant at the time.
It's been raining heavily all day.
Paul was drinking heavily by then.
Britain is heavily dependent on imports for its raw materials.
Breathing heavily, I stopped and sat down to rest.
He was walking heavily, his head down.
Emily sighed heavily.
I suppose so, she said heavily.
Sid was heavily into drugs by the time he left school.
Heaving.
Heaving.
The city was heaving with shoppers.
Heavy. Heavy.
The wardrobe was too heavy for me to move on my own.
A heavy suitcase.
The males are 7 times heavier than the females.
How heavy is the parcel?
The traffic going into London was very heavy.
Heavy rain has caused flooding in many areas. Heavy fighting was reported near the border.
Heavy drinking during pregnancy can damage your baby.
I used to be a heavy smoker. The heavy burden of taxation. If found guilty, they face heavy fines or even prison.
There were heavy casualties on both sides.
England's heavy defeat in yesterday's match.
She's in bed with a heavy cold.
The film's heavy use of special effects.
My son does most of the heavy outdoor work.
She has a bad back and can't do any heavy lifting. I want something to read on holiday. Nothing too heavy.
I found his latest novel a bit heavy-going. I found his latest novel a bit heavy-going.
The car's rather heavy on oil.
The apple trees were heavy with fruit.
The garden was heavy with the scent of summer.
Of course, she said, her voice heavy with sarcasm. Let's go to bed. We've got a heavy day tomorrow. Why does he need to make such heavy weather of a simple task?
Tanks and other heavy weapons.
Heavy artillery.
A company which manufactures heavy machinery.
A heavy winter coat.
The sound of heavy boots. Melt the butter in a heavy pan over a medium heat.
Heavy velvet curtains.
A heavy meal.
Heavy fruitcake.
His eyes felt heavy with fatigue.
His heavy features.
Kyle is a tall man with a heavy build.
The sound of heavy footsteps in the hall.
Ali caught him with a heavy blow to the jaw.
A very heavy pitch.
The going was heavy at Cheltenham yesterday.
The heavy scent of the lilies. Even at dusk the air was still heavy.
She didn't want things to get too heavy at such an early stage in their relationship. He came round and started getting heavy about the money I owed him.
A heavy silence fell upon the room.
It was with a heavy heart that Kate said goodbye.
Eric was real heavy into drugs for a while.
Heavy breather.
Heavy breather.
Heavy cream.
Heavy cream.
Heavy duty.
Heavy duty.
Heavy-duty canvas.
Today she was going to do some heavy-duty cleaning.
Heavy goods vehicle.
Heavy goods vehicle.
Heavy-handed.
Heavy-handed.
A heavy-handed style of management.
Heavy-hearted.
Heavy-hearted.
Heavy hitter.
Heavy hitter.
Heavy industry.
Heavy industry.
Heavy industry.
Heavy metal. Heavy metal.
Heavy petting.
Heavy petting.
Heavy set.
Heavy set.
Heavyweight.
Heavyweight.
One of the heavyweights of the movie industry.
Hebraic.
Hebraic.
Hebraic literature.
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Heck.
Heck.
Oh, heck. I've lost my keys.
Do you believe him? Heck no.
Did he offer to pay for it? Did he, heck?
It cost a heck of a lot of money.
Where the heck are we?
He sure as heck didn't tell me.
It's rather expensive, but what the heck.
Heckle.
Heckle.
Hectare.
Hectare.
Hectic.
Hectic.
I've had a pretty hectic day.
A hectic social life.
The hectic flush on her cheeks.
Hector.
Hector.
A hectoring tone of voice.
Heed.
Heed.
By the time I got there, he'd gone.
I'm sure he'd help if he could.
Hedge.
Hedge.
Buying a house will be a hedge against inflation.
You're hedging again. Have you got the money or haven't you?
That depends on my partner, she hedged.
It's a good idea to hedge your bets by applying to more than one college.
Smart managers will hedge against price increases.
The building was hedged in by trees.
Hedge fund.
Hedge fund.
Hedgehog.
Hedgehog.
Hedgerow.
Hedgerow.
Hedonist.
Hedonist.
Heebie-jeebies.
Heebie-jeebies.
Looking into the dark cave gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Heed.
Heed. If she had only heeded my warnings, none of this would have happened.
The government was taking little heed of these threats. Tom paid no heed to her warning.
Heedless.
Heedless.
O'Hara rode on, heedless of danger.
Heel.
Heel.
Black boots with high heels.
Her low-heeled blue shoes.
Using the heel of your hand, press the dough firmly into shape. Using the heel of your hand, press the dough firmly into shape. Using the heel of your hand, press the dough firmly into shape.
Whenever she wore heels, she was taller than the men she worked with. Whenever she wore heels, she was taller than the men she worked with.
He could hear the dog trotting at his heels. He could hear the dog trotting at his heels.
The decision to buy Peters came hard on the heels of the club's promotion to Division 1. The decision to buy Peters came hard on the heels of the club's promotion to Division 1. With the enemy hard on his heels, he crossed the Somme at Blanche-Tac.
As soon as he saw me, he took to his heels.
Before anyone could say a word, he turned on his heel and walked out of the room.
A people under the heel of an increasingly dictatorial regime. A people under the heel of an increasingly dictatorial regime.
The ship was heeling over in the wind.